Alarms scream through the corridor before I even open my eyes. Red light pulses across the ceiling of my small quarters, and the floor trembles under my boots as I stand up too fast. My name is Colin Marsh, navigator of the outpost ship Wandering Ember, and right now every screen in this ship is telling me the same thing. The Alliance fleet has found us. I run to the bridge, my heart hammering against my ribs. Captain Elena Vasquez is already there, gripping the edge of her console, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. 3 Alliance cruisers sit at the edge of our sensor range, blocking the only hyperlane out of this system. For 100 years, every hyperlane in known space has belonged to them. They mapped the pathways first. They guarded them with fleets larger than anything humanity ever built. And now, because we strayed too close to their border, they mean to remind us who owns the stars. Elena does not look at me when she speaks. Her voice is calm, but I can hear the tightness underneath it. "Colin," she says, "tell me we have options." I check my console, my fingers trembling slightly as I pull up the star charts. The hyperlane behind us leads straight into Alliance territory. The one ahead is blocked by their cruisers. We are trapped between a wall and a closing door. I tell her the truth. There is no path. Every route on the map is either occupied or leads deeper into their space. She nods slowly, absorbing this, and then she says something that changes everything. Then we stop using their map. I do not understand at first. The hyperlanes are not something you invent on the spot. They are ancient corridors of folded space, discovered centuries ago by the Alliance during their early expansion. Every race that came after learned to travel along the same pathways because the Alliance never shared the science of how those lanes were found. They only shared the coordinates, and only with species who bowed to their authority. Humanity was never given a full map. We were given scraps, just enough to trade, never enough to be free. Elena turns to me and asks if I remember Dr. Priya Nair, the physicist who joined our crew 6 months ago. Of course I remember her. She spent most of her time locked in the lower deck lab, running simulations that nobody else understood. I always assumed she was studying Alliance propulsion systems, trying to reverse engineer their engines. I was wrong. We find Priya in the lab, hunched over 3 floating holograms of twisting energy patterns. She looks up at us, her eyes red from lack of sleep, but there is a fire in them I have never seen before. She tells us she has not been studying their engines. She has been studying the space itself, the raw fabric between stars, trying to find gaps the Alliance never mapped because they were never looking for them. Elena asks her directly if this works. Priya hesitates for only a second before nodding. She says the simulations point to a wrinkle in space less than 400 kilometers from our current position. It is not a hyperlane the Alliance uses, because their ships were built around a different kind of folding technology, one that only reads pathways already stabilized by centuries of ship traffic. This wrinkle is raw and untouched. If her calculations are correct, our smaller drive core might be able to punch through it and stabilize a new corridor as we go. I ask the obvious question: what happens if the calculations are wrong? Priya does not flinch. She says the ship could be torn apart, or worse, thrown somewhere with no way back. Elena looks at both of us, and for a long moment, nobody speaks. Outside, the Alliance cruisers begin moving, slow and deliberate, closing the distance like predators who know their prey has nowhere left to run. Elena makes the decision. We go with Priya's plan. She turns to me and tells me to plot a course to the coordinates Priya provides, and to do it fast. My hands move across the console, translating raw numbers into a flight path, my mind racing through every possible outcome. I have flown through stable hyperlanes 100 times, but never anything like this. There is no comfort in familiar numbers here. Every value blinks red with uncertainty. The ship shudders as the Alliance vessels open a channel, their voice cold and mechanical, ordering us to power down and prepare for boarding. Elena ignores them completely. She orders full power to the drive core, and tells engineering to route everything they have into the folding array. Priya stands beside me, watching the numbers shift, whispering corrections under her breath that I barely have time to input. The cruisers fire a warning shot across our bow, a streak of light that lights up the viewport for half a second. Elena's voice stays steady, even as the ship rocks from the shockwave. "Hold the course," she says. "We are almost there." I feel the ship groan beneath me as the drive core begins to spin up, faster than I have ever heard it. Priya grips the edge of my console, her eyes locked on a single flickering readout. She tells me the fold point is close, just ahead, and that I need to angle the ship exactly 3 degrees starboard, or we will miss the window entirely. I adjust the controls with shaking hands, watching the numbers align one by one. The Alliance cruisers are closing fast now, their weapons charging, casting a pale blue glow across our hull through the viewport. Elena orders evasive maneuvers, just enough to buy us the final seconds we need. The ship banks hard, throwing me against my harness, but my eyes stay fixed on the console. 3 seconds to the fold point. 2 seconds. 1. Space itself seems to tear open in front of us, a shimmering crack of light where nothing existed a moment ago. I push the ship forward, and for a heartbeat, everything goes silent. No alarms, no engine hum, nothing but a strange pressure behind my eyes, like the universe is holding its breath along with me. Then the ship lurches violently, and stars smear into streaks of color outside the viewport. Priya shouts something about the corridor stabilizing, her voice full of disbelief and excitement at the same time. I grip the console, fighting to keep the ship steady, as we plunge through a pathway that has never existed before this exact moment. A pathway built by human hands and human minds, not given to us by anyone. The turbulence eases slowly, and the streaks outside the viewport resolve back into distant points of light. We are somewhere new, a region of space none of our star charts recognize. Elena lets out a breath I did not realize she was holding, and for a moment, silence fills the bridge, broken only by the soft hum of the ship settling into normal space. Priya checks her instruments and confirms what we already suspect. The Alliance cruisers are gone, left behind on the other side of a corridor they never knew existed, and could never have followed even if they tried, because their ships are not built to read paths outside their ancient maps. For the first time in 100 years, humanity has traveled somewhere the Alliance cannot track. Elena turns to the crew, and I can see something new in her expression, a mixture of relief and quiet triumph. She thanks Priya for her work, and Priya simply nods, still staring at her instruments like she cannot quite believe what just happened. I sit back in my chair, my hands finally steady, and I realize the weight of what we just did. For a century, every ship that flew across the stars followed lines drawn by someone else. Lines that came with rules, tolls, and boundaries that could never be crossed without permission. Humanity accepted those lines because we believed there was no other way to travel between worlds. Today, we proved that belief wrong. Elena orders a full diagnostic on the drive core and asks Priya to begin mapping the new corridor properly, so that others can follow if they choose. Priya agrees immediately, already pulling up fresh calculations, her exhaustion replaced by pure focus. I watch her work, and I understand this is only the beginning. If one wrinkle in space could be found and used, there are likely countless others scattered across the galaxy, waiting for someone determined enough to look. I return to my console and begin recording the flight data from the fold, every reading precise and complete, because this information will matter far beyond this single ship. Somewhere back home, engineers and scientists will study what we did today and use it to build something the Alliance never expected humanity to have, a network of pathways that belongs entirely to us. Elena walks over and rests a hand on my shoulder. She tells me that today changes everything, and she is right. The Alliance built their power on control, on being the only ones who knew how to move freely among the stars. That control is no longer absolute. We found a way around their walls, not through strength or numbers, but through curiosity and refusal to accept limits placed on us by others. As the ship drifts quietly through unfamiliar space, I look out at the unknown stars ahead of us, stars that no Alliance map has ever charted, and I feel something I have not felt in a long time: hope. Not because the danger is over, because I know the Alliance will search for us and eventually learn what happened here, but because we proved something important. Humanity does not need permission to move forward. We can carve our own path through the universe, one fold in space at a time, and no fleet, no matter how large, can block a road that only we know how to build. Elena gives the order to set a course deeper into this new region, and I begin plotting, my hands steady, my mind already racing ahead to the next unknown crossing waiting for us somewhere beyond the horizon.